Hello everyone, it's Annie and I'm here with my quarter one reading stats. So I love stats videos. I did them for each quarter last year and I am really excited to do them again this year. So here's my quarter one stats. I'm going to tell you the general stats of what I did each month and then go through like the genre and age range and things like that. So in January, I read 10 books. Not as much as I usually do, but that's okay. And the average rating was really, really good. It was 4.15, which is really impressive. Yeah, I remember like the first 3 or 4 books I read in 2022 were all 5 stars. So January was a pretty good reading month for me. And then February, I only read 9 books. I was having a very hard time and I just couldn't have the motivation to read and do things. And the average rating though was still pretty good. It was 4, just an average of 4, so that's good. And then March, last month, I read more books. I read 14, but the average rating was not so good, 3.53. Yeah, I didn't read that many 5-star books, and a lot of them were very average for me. And I did end up actually DNFing a book last month, so that's not something I do that often, although I'm not against it. But yeah, it did happen in March, so I'm really hoping that next month is better in terms of quality. Okay, so now I'm gonna get into the stats. Okay, so the next stat is the format of the books that I read. I read 24 audiobooks. You all know that that's usually what I like to go for. And then 5 physical books and 4 ebooks. So yeah, I really don't like ebooks. That's why I have a hard time getting through my NetGalley queue because they're mostly ebooks, a few audiobooks here and there, but it hurts my eyes. I really don't like it. So yeah, I prefer audiobooks definitely and physical books. Okay, so now author gender. I am really proud of myself. I've read almost 70% female, which is pretty normal for me, 21% male, and 9% non-binary or other. So I have been trying to read more non-binary authors this year, and I'm really, really excited that I've been succeeding so far in these first 3 months. If you saw my most recent video about the transgender and non-binary authors that I want to read, you can see a bunch of recommendations there, and those are a bunch of authors that I'm hoping to read this year, so hopefully that number will go up. But yeah, I'm happy that it's higher than last year's. And then the age range of the books that I've read is also not a surprise, 70% adult, 24% YA, and 6% middle grade. Yeah, I didn't participate in middle grade March this year. For some reason, I didn't. I am reading a couple of middle grade books, maybe like once a month, or something like that. And yeah, so that's pretty normal for me. Most of my books are usually adult. And then author race. I am doing much, much better this year. I am very, very happy with the spread that we have here as compared to last year. We have white authors being 33.3, so a third of the authors that I've read. Black authors being 18.2%, Asian authors being the most actually, which is 39.4%. And then we have Indigenous authors, Latinx authors, and authors of mixed race or just races that I wasn't entirely sure about. There's no information about it, each being 3%. So I am very happy about that. I am planning on reading a lot more by Latinx and Indigenous authors throughout the rest of the year. So I'm hoping things will end up being a little more equal throughout this whole graph towards the end of the year or even next quarter. But I am much, much happier with the diversity that I'm reading this year. And then for the genres that I've been reading, it's pretty much the same as last year, except contemporary is my biggest genre here, which is surprising. 24% contemporary. I don't consider myself a big contemporary reader, but I guess I am. I just never thought about it. Then sci-fi and fantasy at each 21%, not a surprise at all. Historical 18%, not a surprise. I really like historical. I have read some anthologies, some romance, some nonfiction, and some horror, and a dystopian. I guess that could count as sci-fi. I'm not sure why I made that more complicated than it had to be. But yeah, I'm a little surprised. Nonfiction, I usually read way more. I guess my mood has just been for fiction and like SFF books this year so far. But I am planning on reading more nonfiction. I have a lot on my list that I need to get through. And of course, in November, I'll be doing Nonfiction November like I do every year. Yeah, so we'll see how this keeps going, but usually my biggest are sci-fi, historical fantasy, and nonfiction. So we'll see if nonfiction catches up this year. And then the last stat is my rating spread. So I have one 1.5 stars, which is the book I DNF'd. I was debating including it in this graph, but it was there when I screenshotted it, so here we are. That's The Great Circle. Then we have the 2.5 star book, which was Build Your House Around My Body, and both of those were for the Women's Prize for Fiction, so not something I would have ever picked up, and I probably shouldn't have picked either of them up, but oh well. And then, the rest are pretty good. We have 8 3 stars, 3 3.5 stars, 11 4 stars, 1 4.5 star, and 8 5 stars. So that's pretty good. Most of them are good. I count 3 stars and up as a book that I liked, so it seems like I liked almost every book that I've read this year so far, even though March was a pretty low average rating. That's okay. This month in April, when I'm filming this, I already have a 4 and a 5 star book that I already read, so that's very exciting. So before I end this video, I want to talk about my favorite books that I've read in each month. In January, that would have to be The Traitor Baru Cormorant. This was amazing, by Seth Dickinson. This is actually, all 3 of these books are going to be sapphic. Who's surprised? Not me. This is a fantasy book about this empire called the Masquerade, and Baru is part of the indigenous people of this island that they come and conquer. And there is like rampant homophobia in this empire, so just be aware of that as like a content warning before you read this. But Baru kind of infiltrates the empire by becoming an accountant and is like trusted by everyone, and she actually, is a traitor, as it says, and she wants to work to kind of topple this evil empire, and it is so good. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. One of my favorite books I have ever read, not just in this quarter, but ever. I love it so much, and I cannot wait to read the sequel and the 3rd one, and there is a 4th one that's supposed to come out eventually. This book is just amazing, and the ending of this was so good and really made me angry, but it was so good, and I love Baru as a character too. And then my favorite book of February was Ophelia After All by Raquel Marie. Another sapphic book. This is a YA contemporary with one of the most beautiful covers I have ever seen. So gorgeous. I love this book. I love Ophelia, the main character. It deals with her kind of navigating friendship drama, and it deals with prom and like who's going to prom with who, and friendship groups potentially dissolving in the wake of senior year of high school. And I love this. It was just really relatable and something I wish I had the privilege of reading when I was in high school. And I'm so glad that we have this book now. It is just so good and heartwarming, and you all should read it. And then my favorite book for March was Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. This was a really good adult romance, not the genre that I usually read, but I knew I had to check this out. It's one of the biggest sapphic releases of 2022, and I was not disappointed at all. Oh, it was so good. It follows Delilah, who's a wedding photographer, and she goes back to her small hometown to photograph her stepsister's wedding. And while there, she meets her stepsister's close friend named Claire, and they kind of get together, and drama ensues, lots of drama, lots of interesting side characters. Really interesting, especially her stepsister Astrid. I love her, and that is going to be the protagonist of the second book in this series. I can't wait to read about Astrid. I think she's such a great character. I just loved Ashley Herring Blake's writing in this and her characterization, and it was just completely so much fun to read. I loved it. I loved every minute that I listened to it, and I can't wait for the second one. So that was pretty quick, short and sweet video about my reading stats for January, February, and March. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to my channel for more bookish videos every week, and I'll see you next time. Bye!